Welcome everyone. I'm gonna, it sometimes takes a minute for the attendees to join. I see Araya, Bose, Mel, hello. Hi Kelly. Hey Maria. Hi Alicia. Hi Alexandriana. Alexandrina. I can't see you. I'm just going to let everyone know right up front that this is, I'll do a more proper intro. I just want to welcome you all, but this session is going to be different than others. So if you want to be on camera just throughout and be on video and have the opportunity to speak, just let me know in the chat and I can do that, because this is more kind of an organic discussion today. And I really appreciate everyone being here. We'll give it a couple more minutes and then we'll get started. Raya's got her phone queued up. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. All right. I'm just gonna kind of welcome everyone again. My name is Kristen Martel. I'm the Executive Director of the WILD Project, and just really appreciate everyone being here today. We are just, you know, for those of you who have participated in the series to date, many of you know that we created this series in response to one crisis, which was and continues to be the COVID-19 pandemic. And we started the series back in April and have it going every 2 weeks. Today was scheduled to happen, and Susan Mull was going to be presenting a session or leading a session on strong minds and strong arms, and combining some exercise and movement with readings. And we just felt that, you know, in light of being an entirely new crisis that we're facing in the United States, it was better to postpone that and just have time together to check in with one another and to hear from you. And so we reached out to one of our board of directors, Linda Scruggs, and one of our CAB members, Gina Brown, to ask them their thoughts about how we should do this. And they generously offered to co-facilitate the session today. And again, when I say session, it's really just kind of coming together and expressing how people are feeling. And we invited everyone to either share just their own feelings or bring a poem or a reading to share. And so again, we are really happy to see many of you on here. We're really looking forward to connecting with you and hearing from you. So I will hand it over to Linda and Gina, but just as you know, I mean, and they'll talk about this a little bit more, but Gina has also been participating in the series wearing her social work hat, and she will continue, you know, in that capacity today. And Linda also, as a, you know, licensed counselor, can also just help us with everything that we're processing. I express myself much better in writing, and I for those of you that may not have seen, I did put out a statement about just kind of the, you know, tragedies of George Floyd, you know, the racism that is continuing to get uncovered and has been there, but is getting, you know, in the police brutality, and how those of us, you know, especially white allies can utilize our privilege to speak out and learn and listen. And so I will post that link later, just because it also contains some resources that I think are really helpful for people in the white community to look into and to be a better ally. So So with that, I thank you all again for being here and look forward to hearing from you. And just let me know if you're interested in coming on camera at any point, even if you don't want to be speaking. And with that, thank you. I'll hand it to Linda and Gina.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you, Krista. And good afternoon, guys. Everybody officially, please forgive me for being informal and saying guys. I'm going to say that girls, gals. My grandmother says gals. As Krista noted, and I don't think that anyone here, whether you're in the U.S. or abroad, don't know and see that there is unrest happening in our community, and in particular in the community. I say our communities, particularly in the community of African Americans, you know, but I do know and acknowledge we have some allies who are in this battle with us, tooth and nail. And I wanted to facilitate, me and Gina, a discussion, a kind of check-in. I think the way I described it to the team here was, you know, a check-in looking at how do we help and support the caregiver of the caregiver, knowing that many of the folks who are on the Well Project series are folks who in some way, whether personally, professionally, within their job, take care and support other people. And they're looking to you to help them and support them and pat them on their back. But we wanted to do a check-in with you to see how you are doing personally and to hear from you. I see folks are already in the chat box talking. We also want to invite you to come and speak out loud, you know, to come forward and in the chat box, if you want to say something, let us know. We're keeping a record. There's a lot of folks, you know, going to be joining us, so we'll check back every so often, make sure they know that we're asking people to use the chat box to let us know they want to talk or say something. We invite you because, again, as Krista said, this is different. We're really going to have a conversation, a discussion. So if you are willing to, you know, come online and kind of have a more personal, you know, in-person conversation, please go in the chat box and just let Krista know, and she can grant you access so you can use your video to do that, because we really, you know, I know everybody won't. Some folks, unlike me, who came and snuck in the office today, snuck in the office to get out of my house, you know, may not have makeup on and all that, or hair combed or brushed. So it's okay if you don't, but we'll accept you who you are, however you are. But we would like to have just a kind of organic discussion to talk about how you're feeling, how you're dealing with this, and who you're supporting. Hey, Gina, I'm going to turn to you. You want to say something to folks before we open it up? How you doing?
Hey, y'all. How am I doing? I'm hanging in there. I think like everybody else, I'm just hanging in there, putting one foot in front of the other. But I just want y'all to know that if you need to talk like any other time, if you want to talk offline, I'm always available for you. But let me stop lying. I'm available to you until 7 o'clock at night, and then I go to sleep. Everybody knows that. So you have to call me before 7 or give me an email and I'll reach out to you. Yes. But welcome, y'all. Let's just talk.
Yeah. You know, I'll give a disclaimer. I smile a lot, and my husband told me you're smiling too much, because he's not smiling at all. So I want us to have a meaningful conversation. So who's already in the chat? Has anybody said they want to say something? I know Araya has a reading. I saw that earlier. She had a poem ready. But I want to know, do we ever have a list, folks? Olivia?
I'm sorry, what were you asking? Is anybody else? Nobody else so far is speaking up. Alicia has just come on video.
Yeah, Alicia.
Was that what you were?
Great.
I hope that was what you were asking. Yeah.
Yes. So, Araya, do you want to do your reading now? Maybe that'll set some of the tone.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Hello, sisters. Thank you. Linda knows I'm a smiler too, so I have smiles on my end as well. I have a poem that I wrote a few years ago, actually after the post-tragedy, but it's also always current because we're always dealing with the same stuff, you know. So I'm going to dedicate this one today to Ayanna Dior, Tony McDade, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd, who represent so many intersectionalities of our Black peoples and Black families. You know, trans woman, trans man, cisgendered woman, cisgendered man, all Black, all dealt with violence. This poem is called Oh Mother. Mother, oh mother, where is the nurture of the lioness, the protection like the mother bear? Where is the light in the darkness, the shade of the ancient trees? Mother, oh mother, I am haunted by their eyes, his eyes, as the fire engulfed my head. Her eyes will call you. His eyes, as I stared down the barrel, once, twice, thrice, 4 times. Mother, oh mother, the repressed self-hate as he pressed against me, my hair in his balled fist, my blood upon his member. Once, twice, thrice, 12 times. The splashes of fire in the darkness, systems. The hate spewed from the mouths of ignorance. The sign of the cross as she crosses your path. The denial of home and rest. Mother, oh mother, where are the equal eyes, the embrace of fellow humans? Where is the equality, the value of fellow life? Where is the erasure of the eyes of hate, the memories emblazoned, the fuel of ignorance? Mother, oh Mother Earth, help me, help us, my imploration of love. Thank you.
Wow, Ashe. That is perfect. And it kind of, thank you. Wow. You're right, Maria. Wow. Often, you know, I heard you say that poem was written a few years ago, but it still rings true. You know, I have chill bumps over here, and I didn't bring no Kleenex. I might cry. Oh, I have an old paper towel. It's mine. This is hard. You know. I want to hear. I know there's some folks. We want to hear from you. But that poem kind of made me want to just for a second, just take a moment of silence. Let's just be quiet for a moment, and just honor our ancestors that poem reads loud to. Okay, thank you, Araya. Is there anybody else who wants to share? I'm gonna start calling on some of y'all. I see Brenda's here, Maria, Alicia is here.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Olivia. You know, there's so much anger and so much hatred, and it feels like there's something evil underneath it all. you know, there's something that it just seems so bad. And I hate seeing so much hatred. It seems like there's just so many people that instead of it being an uprising of outrage for what's going on and how unfair it is, that there's also an underlying, it seems like almost like in hatred, and it scares me a little. But I think that the only way that you can get through to make any changes is this riots are the only way that we've been able to make changes in the past. Sorry, my grandson's in the background. But that's the only way that changes happened in the past. So, yeah, I know that I can't watch the news because it overwhelms me with sadness to see, you know, people against people. And that's the part that hurts me. The people against people. Whether they be officers against people or whatever. I just don't like seeing people in combat with people, even though I know it's kind of a reality.
Thank you for sharing, Brenda. This is hard. There is a lot of hate in our world, you know. So even before last week, there's hate, but I think also what we see is also a lot of pain. You know, so encourage you, you know, to, you know, keep pushing. You know, we do want to see people at peace. You know, but also in finding your own space. And a big piece of what we want to talk about also is, you know, how you're taking care of you. And, you know, so if you're seeing anger, you're seeing pain, you're seeing this brokenness, you know, what are you doing that you're not absorbing that space that don't have good energy for you? So what are you doing to counter what you're seeing? You know, I'll tell you, I think most folks in the community know I'm a woman of faith, spiritual background. I don't look to offend anybody in this statement, but I do, this is a part of spiritual, and I've done research across a number of denominations, and this is something I've seen in most of them. Our eyes are our eye gate to our soul. So what we see, we absorb. So I love that you said, you know, I'm not that I don't like to look at the news. There are good things on the news, and there's information we need on the news, but also how do you limit what are you taking into your eye gate? So if you've seen the protests, if you've seen these pieces, and they're not energy, for some folks that's energy for them to keep going. If it's energy that keeps you in pain, you know, turn the channel, turn off the social media, and do those things that, you know, really are going to help you in that space. But thank you for sharing. I appreciate that transparency space. Anybody else? Who else? I know Maria has something to say. I don't know where she is, but I know Maria has something to say. I see your conversation about the folks in Florida and the white supremacy that's happening that we see. You know, invite folks again. This stuff didn't happen last week. You know, something happened last week. A murder happened last week. But a lot of what we see are generations, centuries of oppression, you know, being tired, folks hurting in that sense, you know, I'll go back to the Bible, you know, early oppression, you know, Moses, if you ever read the Bible, you know, the days of Moses when the Pharaoh was looking because he saw his slaves becoming very vocal and he saw them becoming very encouraged and empowered, and he decided that the males of all Egyptians would be, of all Hebrews would be murdered. That was because he saw growth happening, right? So this oppression isn't new. This oppression we're experiencing is just been recycled in different places. So among Black people, this and brown people. This is not new. What happened, that was just more salt, but what happened this time, I think the shield went up. Usually you put salt on a fire, it goes out. This time, shield went up, and our young people really are rallying to do what I'm happy to see them do. I'm not happy about the violence, I'm not happy about looting, but I'm happy that they know, in spite of this oppression, that they have voice and that they have power and that they're utilizing those collective lessons from their ancestors and their parents and their community and social media to do what they have identified, deemed to this at this point in history. So it is dark, Araya. The times are dark, but I don't know if you guys ever been in a cave. I went caving once. I went caving once with a group activity back at Hopkins. And inside a cave is really dark. It's really dark. For the person who strikes a match in that darkness, they're the hero, And I think when I talk about you guys doing things intentionally, what match can you strike? What can you do right now? Well, what light can you bring to this dark space? Yes, right. It only takes one match, and all of us got a match. Whether you're the person, Gina said earlier, I ain't going out there. COVID's still out there. I ain't mad at her. Whether you're the person that's going to go to the protest, whether you're the person who's going to support and make sure our folks got bus fare, train passes to get there, whether you're going to start the person who started a letter campaign in your community. I was on a call yesterday, a young person, he said he's going to start a website to start collecting PEP masks and stuff so he can hand them out. There's a role we can play. So I see Brenda saying letter campaign works. They do. I know a lot of folks, there's a lot of conversation around our country's leadership. This is not good nor bad. But I'll tell you, whoever the president is, whether you voted for him or not, that's one person that we need to respond. There's a lot of local leadership. What happened in Michigan, in Minnesota was a systemic issue. It was a systemic issue, and that is local. That is state. Local and states are going to have to address space. So no, don't come. Let you in DC. DC get handled. There are even local and state, regional things that we can be doing to help ourselves in the community. And also, we don't have to do anything. Everybody ain't called to do something. I think, Brenda, thank you. Change.org. Chris is saying, make sure folks make your chat to everybody. Some folks are doing it personally, thinking they may be doing it to everybody. Yes, I love it. Araya, mobilizing around the violence against Black peoples and everything, the stories, and watch the squeaky, which aren't squeaky clean, yes. I want to hear from you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is important to, try to find ways,
I think Krista froze.
Yeah, she
a lot.
did.
I think a lot of people don't feel.
You have froze, Krista. You have to restate it. We lost you.
All right, let me know when to back up.
You're up now.
Okay. I don't know. Of course, that happens. Yeah, I think there's fortunately, I mean, it seems like there are people who their main jobs are to kind of compile resources that help us figure out where we can make a change. And like I said, in the letter that I wrote, or the blog that I wrote on Friday, we've sifted through a lot of what we've seen out there, and it's particularly, you know, for white people to be able to like get involved and not just be upset with what's going on, but to actually take some steps. And that could be, you know, like we said, signing a petition. It could be making a donation to organizations. It could be making a phone call. It doesn't necessarily mean having to get out and go to the protest, although that is, you know, great too, but it's not for everyone. So there are ways that people can make a difference. And it's important to, I think, I mean, in my eyes, and especially kind of as the leader of this organization and seeing how, you know, pre-COVID, pre this, you know, crisis that we're in right now, and then pre-COVID, we still have so many obstacles to fight to ensure that the people in our community are living, you know, lives with access to healthcare and treatment and quality of life. And so now COVID put something big on top of that. And this is even harder, but I think it's really important to try and take whatever small steps you can to just make a difference. And it can be, like I said, it can be a lot of little things. It can be just watching, you know, certain movies, learning more about history. It could be reading books about the history in our country and racism, educating yourself so that some of this doesn't seem so, you know, like some people don't understand how this could happen, but there's a lot. So I will, again, I can post the link to the piece, but with further down in that, there's a series of links that I invite people to take a look at.
Thank you, Krista. Araya, you're like in my head as well. Araya posts, you know, utilize your privilege. We all have some privilege. You know, everyone has privilege. You know, often we look and we say, you know, only both white people live in white privilege. You know, we sit in privileged spaces as Black and brown people. You know, and I do invite folks, if you don't know that, to do a self-inventory on what you bring to the space that you share. You know, your ability. You know, I'll use a little bit of Olivia for a second. Now, Olivia is a great writer. You know, she does social media. She does all that is yes, you are. All that is privileged space in lieu of all the other things that she brings. She's a mother, she's a partner. There's a number of things we bring. You know, I tell folks, you know, even myself, being a leader in the HIV community, some of you know, when we first went into COVID, the Well Project was starting this webinar series, and I went to Facebook not knowing this was happening and started a private group for women living with HIV to get away from COVID. You know, it's a private group. You can't say COVID in the group. And literally, and I've never done a Facebook group before. I had to figure out how to do it. Within 10 hours, I had like 100 ladies in the group. I absolutely know that's community leadership privilege, because almost every lady joined the group and said, Linda, thank you for letting us in. You know, I don't know if everybody can do that. So you have privilege. You have a network of people who's around you, be it your family. I share with folks, you know, I'm the favorite aunt. I am the favorite aunt in my family, hands down. So they all call me. So the young people listen to me. My son this weekend, Isaiah's 29. He's a young Black male. He lives outside of Baltimore, and I know he had been protesting without telling me. Right? He drove 62 miles to my house to give me a hug, because he at that moment wanted to be with his mom. Right? So he gave me a hug. He said, I need some gloves. I need rubber gloves because people out there don't have gloves and masks. So I gave him 2 boxes of rubber gloves and some masks, and he left all of 5 minutes. But what really was happening inside of that 5-minute visit, Isaiah did not drive 62 miles each way to get gloves and masks. Isaiah rode 62 miles because he needed some comfort. You know, he, the big grown man, 6'4", 197 pounds. He's single. I'm sorry. He drove that far. He came that far because when I texted him on his way home, I said, "What's really going on?" And he said, "I hurt, Mom. I hurt." You know, we hurt. You know, and I know as Black and brown people, we've experienced hurt before, you know, but we have something now. So in Isaiah's privilege, he didn't have no gloves, but he knew somebody who had a case of gloves. You know, who do you know? So know that that's privilege. So Isaiah, he utilized his privilege of who he know, and he ended up going to another friend of ours who for the state is distributing PEP and taught them out of a case of mask. The state-owned mask to take to the protests in Baltimore. That's privilege also. So you have your own personal, but when you look at your network of folks around you, what you can do and how do you intentionally use that space, whether you hurt, whether you want to fight, and I'm not saying physically beat up people, fight, but fight with your pen, with Twitter. You know, Gina, don't get on Twitter, you know, restriction, because Gina Brown is good for getting on Twitter timeout. You know, how do you go far enough that you don't get on timeout? Or if you get on timeout, ask somebody else to post your new tweets. You know, Gina, I'll post your tweets because I don't tweet. They're not looking at me because I don't tweet enough for them to look at. You know, what can you do in this space? Because we do all have privilege. We have to look at and see how can we utilize it differently and utilize it very intentionally for this purpose.
I think Bose was gonna, is it working, Bose? Can you put your camera on? You know, and I apologize to the others that Araya, you know, especially in Brenda, I didn't realize that maybe you weren't able to put your camera on. I'm changing the settings now, but I thought what I did was gonna allow you to do that. So, hi, Bose.
Hi. We can't hear you. No, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Sorry. Can you hear me? Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. We have you.
Yeah, I'm good. And you?
Very good.
Greetings from Nigeria.
Yes.
It would be really interesting to hear, you know, we've seen a lot of protests going up in other countries, you know, in honor of what's happening here and fighting against what, you know, the events happening here. So it would be great to hear from your perspective.
Well, for me, I've been actually following the news on the TV. I believe a lot of young people are out there, and which is encouraging. And for me as an activist and an advocate, it is very, very encouraging. It's a sad event. It's very, very sad. It's disheartening. I've seen some videos on social media, very, very disheartening. And I think it's high time we watch out for each other. We look out for each other. We are brothers, we are sisters. We need to look out for ourselves. And it's a great thing that people are coming up to march, to do rally. And I hope and I pray that our goals are achieved in this race. For me, I can't relate I can't relate. I know in Nigeria we have ethnic groups clashes here and there, not the racism issue. It has to do with either religions issue, ethnic groups, and what have you. So it has been, I was short of speech. I really don't know what to say. And that was why I've been listening to all the conversation going on in the webinar.
Thank you, thank you. I'm going to tell you. So I don't look at news at night when stuff is happening, because often it's still happening. So I'm a morning news person. And yesterday morning, I don't know if other folks saw it, but when I got up, they were showing protests from around the globe, you know. And as a Black woman in America who's not feeling Black empowered around societal stuff, to see folks who didn't look like me and didn't have melanin in their skin, I mean, of the hundreds and thousands of them in some places marching on behalf of us in the U.S., you know. And I'm not saying that to say that not white folks aren't marching in the U.S. They are. You know, they're writing letters, they're being our allies and all of that. But literally, I haven't seen the hundreds of droves of them show up in one place. But in other countries, watching in Paris, I don't know if you saw, there were literally hundreds. And at one point, someone took a knee, and it was almost as though it was choreography that you saw this whole crowd, like, falling to a knee. So when we feel like no one's listening, or the marches aren't working, or the young people's voices, or we kind of think nobody really cares about Black people, you know, it was, for me, very encouraging to see around the world that folks were standing in solidarity for what is wrong. You know, what is wrong. I had, you know, so I thank you, Bosie, for sharing that, because, again, this isn't just in the U.S. This is being felt all over the world, you know, and if you ever traveled outside of the U.S., you know, racism does exist in other places. But I will say, for someone who's very well traveled, there's no place like the U.S. I don't know, I haven't been somewhere else yet that it shows up this hurtful and this blatant as it does. So we have a few more minutes. I do want to, oh, hey, Gina, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I'm not feeling good about people taking the knee. And I'm not feeling good about it because, you know what, Colin Kaepernick took a knee years ago and nobody took one with him. We've been getting killed on camera for a long time. And it takes this one for people to say, oh, it's really happening. It's been happening. You know, Breonna Taylor was just murdered in March in her own bed.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I know right now there's a big controversy because Nickelodeon put up a PSA about this, right? Black Lives Matter. People are losing their mind behind it. But I feel like this, if I have to have a conversation with my 9-year-old grandson on how not to get killed by the police, then you know what behind need to be having one with your child on how not to be a racist.
That's
because
right.
I can tell you that in my own personal life, I was in first grade the first time somebody called me the N-word. I was 10 years old the first time a white lady called the police on me because I rode my bike in her subdivision. I was 17 when a man flashed me and I called the police, and the police didn't believe me, believed the man. So it's always been something. You know, this ain't just start for me at all. You know, and I am angry. I'm angry because I have a Black son. I'm angry because I have 2 Black grandsons. And I'm telling y'all think I'm playing. But if something happened to any of them, then y'all gonna have to come and get me. Because I'm going street. And I'm not talking about marching, and I'm not talking about looting. You know, because this is serious. I'm tired. I'm 54 and I'm tired. My mom is 75 and she's tired. You know, it's not enough for me that people are taking a knee. It's not enough that the police are not out there wanting a kumbaya. Kumbaya by telling your people to stop killing us.
That's right. That's right. That's
Why
right.
did it take so long for a cop to be, you saw it on camera. Why did it take so many days for him to be charged? Linda, if I put my knee on your neck and you die, I'm going to jail before they do an
I'm gonna fight the
autopsy.
damn need you.
But y'all know what I'm saying. And yes, I'm passionate
You do.
about it because we've seen it. We've seen it so many times played out in this country. You know, Billie Holiday sung about strange fruit. Strange fruit wasn't just the neighborhood people stringing us up. It was the police too, y'all. So this been
That's
going
right.
on.
That's right.
That's all I
And
have. I'm sorry for bringing everybody down
no,
with that.
no, you did.
Gina,
No, you didn't bring. That's true. I mean, I want you to know that you're right. A knee is not enough. It was an encouraging moment, but the knee is not enough. And you're right. But I think I also would say what's happening now. I think some people were already seeing it, and I think some folks are just seeing it. And I think because people had blinders on. You know, people put blinders on for a number of reasons. As Black and brown people, we put blinders on, you know. So if some of them are just uncovering at this moment, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. And I'm like you. I have 2 sons and 5 grandsons. Oh, I know granddaughters, you know, in the sense that we are concerned. You know, many of us may have had parents and relatives who marched in civil rights. And it's like, why are we still marching? So, Araya, go ahead, beautiful. I'm loving that
Well, I was
blonde
just
hair.
going to bounce off of what Gina was talking about. Like, I don't know how a white person's experience is, or someone that's non-Black, but I know that we were, like, some of our earliest memories as Black people is realizing the differences in color. And I don't know, I imagine that for a white person it's more of just a reflection type of thing, like you just notice it. More for us, the same time we notice it is the same time that we realize that because of that color, that people are looking and treating us differently. And so the conversations of racism has to start at an early age, because we're already seeing it at an early age. You know, it's not something to protect our children from. It's something to make them soldiers about, right? And yeah, I just wanted to uplift that about us and our children, godchildren, and nieces and
And I
nephews.
know Maria posted she wanted to be next. I will say, and I know nobody wants to talk about Bill Cosby, right? But somebody sent me this piece that Bill Cosby did in 1987, and he talked about this conversation of us having to come into a place where we have to talk. Like, why do we have to have the talk? So this isn't new. We've been having the talk for generations, you know. And you're right, Gina. The talk need not just happen to us. Talk needs to happen to the system. That, you know, last week in San Diego, they showed a video of a police academy, and the instructor decided to have the talk with the cadets that we can't do this. This is not what we are, who we are. My question was you having that talk 2 weeks ago? Or now you're having the talk now? Yeah. So, because I've never seen San Diego Police Department show their cadet training, but now you want to have an out loud talk. So you're right. And we will go through a period of anger, hurt, and brokenness as we get to those tables. Maria, I'm going to let you come on in, darling, and share with us. I see you.
Hello, sisters.
Hello.
How y'all doing?
We here. We
hanging in there. Well, I don't want to be like a negative person, because I have a lot of, I'm a person that has a lot of feelings always inside of me, which I actually hate because I hurt myself a lot with that. I'm sad today, particularly, and that's why one of the reasons I also decided to come here and be with you all, because you all uplift me. Today's my dad's birthday, and he's in heaven. So today, and the day of his death, is very hard for me because of our past. My father was a racist. He was taught to be one. You see, This for me as a Latina, which is so disgusting to say, we have the same history in Latin America. My great-grandmother had slaves. I heard my grandfather saying, "Black, not even my horse." I was raised in a household where they were very loving, but they didn't even sit they had never even sat at a table with a Black person to even be able to judge an Afro-Colombian, for example. I was the first person that brought a Black person, African-American person, to the table to sit with them, and they understood their ignorance, and they said sorry for their ignorance, and they explained that their great-grandmothers from Spain and all that nastiness and slavery and all the same. The only difference between what happened in the United States with slavery and in Latin America was the language, but it was the same thing. And I still see it here in South Florida, and I am disgusted. I'm tired of fighting. I'm very tired as well. I'm tired of fighting some in my family that are younger. For example, with my little brother, I know that he's very young, but he put something on social media yesterday that triggered me. He put, "If this is wrong," which is the knee of that disgusting monster that killed that poor man, and he compared it to looting. "If you think that this is wrong and you think this is okay," something just, how dare you compare property to a human being? I said, what is wrong with you? I understand that he married a Venezuelan. Of course, they're traumatized because of their communism or whatever it is over there, but they're a bunch of racists too. It's South Florida. It is the most disgusting place to be in. You see nothing but people that are of color talking shit about African Americans continuously. And even when there's Afro Latinos that are speaking Spanish, they're in shock, like, "Oh, you speak Spanish? What the fuck?" Celia Cruz was an Afro Latina. There's so many Afro Latinos. What the hell? Look, racism has always existed, but Trump has incited it even more. In South Florida is pro-Trump no matter what he does. The way that we see him is not the way that they see him. They see him as a man of God, and I don't understand. I don't understand how they can excuse the bigotry, the nastiness, the horrible things that come out of their mouth. I saw people saying yesterday that I hope they drop a bomb on the protesters, that I hope that they kill them and shoot them. This is something that has me. I can't go and protest because of my health. I have been locked in this freaking house for 4 months, and I'm tired of being in here. COVID is not over. Okay? I worry about that. I don't know what my future holds. I want my life back. There's people that I know that are committing suicide. The people that I know that are leaving their medication, that are relapsing on drugs, that are being, like I was talking about with Olivia yesterday, about something we're going to talk about domestic violence, the abuse against children and domestic violence in home that are on lockdown is horrendous. And the cops are not doing anything. Okay, they're not doing nothing because they consider that there are other things that are, I guess, more important. And I am angry. I'm sad. I feel depressed. I don't know what to do. Because I can't go and march because I'm afraid of COVID-19 and my health. The only thing that I could do, as what Linda says, as some type of influencer, because I don't even know what I am anymore, because I cannot give from an empty vessel, and I tell them that, all I could do is continuously pound anti-Trump things so they could maybe change their minds of what they're hearing in Fox News, because they don't see the big picture. So all that they see is what they have always been and what we were taught. You see, as a little child, I don't know, you're not born a racist. You're taught that. And even though I was brought up with that, something inside of that little girl, because I told my mom, man, I think I was an activist since I was a child. Because remember, I used to always defend Black people here in the United States. Because when I came here, I started seeing the racism like big time. And I even was called the N-word because I have, I guess, luscious lips or something. And I am a person of color. And, and my father would tell my mom and my dad, and they're like, no, but you're not Black. And I was like, excuse me, I have Black, Indian, and Spaniard in me. I know what I have, and since I was a child, I defended. And because I knew something inside of me, I knew it was wrong. Because even though I was a child and I couldn't comprehend why, I would ask them, why do you hate Black people? Why? Give me a reason. Why? I would tell my grandparents why. I would tell my aunts why. And no one could give me a freaking answer. How could you hate someone that you have never encountered in your life? Because in my country, in Medellin specifically, back then, there was no Black people there. Okay? It was mostly like natives and like Spaniard descent. This is mostly whites, I guess, in the area where I was. They didn't have nothing that they could tell me why they hated or why they despised or why they didn't want their daughters to marry a Black man. They couldn't tell me why. And that was disgusting to me. And I fought that until they were old and they finally understood. And I told them, if you're such Catholics like you say you are, you have to stop the ignorance. And as soon as they sat down with a person of color, specifically what I mentioned, an African-American person that I was seeing, and they sat on the table, they asked them for forgiveness. And I was very happy about that moment. But it's still happening. The Latinos here, you go to where Alicia, you know that. You live in Miami. You know how those, I don't want to target people. You know how them Cubans are, okay? And my partner's a Cuban, and they're all Trump supporters, his family, and they all hate Black people. And the funniest thing is that most of them are half Black, okay? But they feel like I don't know if it's they want to be like the white man, and I'm sorry for the white people that are on here, but I think that the Latinos here, because that's the issue that I have right now, they want to appease the white man. They want to be like them. They want to dye their hair blonde. I'm not saying nothing bad with blonde hair to Alicia, but this is the truth, okay? They don't want to be of color. I remember when I was in the ocean tanning as a little girl, my grandmother coming out and scolding my mother and saying, why are you permitting Maria Teresa, which is my name, Maria Teresa, why are you permitting Maria Teresa to get stained? And what they meant by stained is, why would she allow me to get color? Because you see, they wanted to be with umbrellas in the sun. And it was disgusting. So I have always put out there the reality of what my background is, and both sides of my mother and father. My mom is not that way, thankfully. You know, she's my grandparents all died already. My father died, and they all died, most of them, understanding the ignorance, but it continues. I don't know what to do with these people anymore. I want to get out of Florida at some point, but I don't know where to turn. Everywhere I think about going, I'm afraid, because COVID is still here. A lot of people are like, oh, what happened to COVID? No, COVID is still here. And the mask thing, it freaks me out, because I'm like, yeah, I see a lot of white kids, a lot of youth, and I'm so happy about that. But the way that they're gathering is very scary to me, and that might not hit them because they're very young, but they could bring it back to the families. And at the end of the day, what's going to happen? And I'm afraid. I'm afraid about what's going to happen because it's dangerous. And what is going to happen if there is a spike like how they say it's going to happen? We're not going to have enough hospitals. It's going to be chaotic. Is it going to get any worse? Does anybody have an opinion on how things are going to be? Are we going to be worse? 2020 has been a horrendous year. Even worse than when I was diagnosed with HIV. It has been horrible. The 1 billion animals that have died, the hurricanes in Puerto Rico that are still struggling there, the killing of this Black man that we all are traumatized to. Look, I have seen people get murdered in front of me since I was a child. Okay, but the thing that I saw on TV with that poor man, from the beginning to the end, we are traumatized. We are re-traumatized. We are so traumatized. Look, we all were a witness of a murder in plain daylight.
Maria?
I'm sorry.
It's okay, darling. Let me stop you for a second. I want to give us a time check. We got like 6 minutes left.
I'm so sorry.
Don't you be sorry. Don't you be sorry. That's what this call is for us to have this conversation. And you're right. We are traumatized over and over and over again. But I want to hold up because I know Alicia wants to say something, And I want us to do one quick thing before we leave. So, Alicia, I'm sorry, just because of our time limitations. Can you share, Alicia? And we're going to do one quick thing, and then we're going to talk about transition out.
Hey, ladies, no worries. Maria, I love you, girl, and I understand.
Yes.
I just wanted to share something that when it happened, I didn't know what it was. And a lot of people seem to feel different about light-skinned Black people versus dark-skinned Black people. I was born in Thomasville, Georgia, and raised in Georgia. And the memory for me is my uncle. My grandfather was a Cherokee Indian. My grandmother was an African-American woman. So my uncle, he used to play with these white kids in the neighborhood. One day, and I remember it like yesterday, especially with everything that's going on, the little white boy and little girl, their father came to my grandmother's house, where it was me and my cousins. My grandmother was there. My grandfather wasn't there. The kid's father asked my grandma if he could talk to my uncle. My uncle was light-skinned with curly hair. He looked like a Cherokee Indian. So my grandma was like, no, what do you need to see my son for? The man pushed my grandmother down, grabbed my uncle, took him out the house, and left. Now, my word for today is gratitude, because he brought him back, but he was beat up and broken up so bad we had to take him to the hospital. That man took him somewhere, beat him because he was playing with his kids. He didn't even bring him back to the door. They drove by and threw him in the yard. Now, can you imagine a child? Okay, I saw him take my uncle. I'm like, what's going on? You know, young, not understanding. But with everything that's going on today in the country, no one is obsolete. Black is Black. It doesn't even matter. Hate is hate. If they don't like you for whatever reason, it doesn't go away. And like she said, that's generational. And I was a child watching this. I am so thankful that my uncle came back, because he didn't have to. Because back in those days, they didn't care. The only reason everything is happening now because everybody got cameras. Racism ain't just show up. Racism just is media and publicized now. That's how we're getting everything that we're getting out, because everybody's seeing it. They've heard of it, but it's being shown now. And I just wanted to share that with y'all, my little racism in my family from a childhood that's been peaking in me more so because my uncle's birthday was last month. So just sharing a piece of me with y'all and my love and support. Maria, I love you, girl. I understand that. Like she said, how can you help when you're broken? And we all may be leaders in one way or another, but we get broke too, baby. And I just want to say I love you all, and I wanted to share that. Hope I didn't take up too much time, guys.
No, you're fine, Alicia. Ladies, I mean, do me a favor. So I see all of you looking at the screens and all that. Find some color or something that you haven't been looking at. Find an object that you haven't been looking at and touch it. Touch something. Take yourself away from the camera, from your phone for a second. Find something different to rechannel us, because we're going to have to leave this conversation. Wow, that's right. I want to see it. Thank you. This has been powerful conversations, and we have to find the things in the midst of dark and craziness that feels different and look different. This is not a conversation that will end, right? That's right, Brenda, smells different. Because even though we can't smell it, it stinks. As we transition out of the call, I want you to know that, Krista, permission, the Well Project loves you. The Well Project loves what you bring to our community. And we individually love in what you bring into this community. And whether you're in India, you're in Africa, you're in the UK, or the good old U.S. of America, we want you to be well, we want you to be safe, and we want you to take care of yourself in the midst of this space. As Gina said, Gina's around up until 7 Central Time. I'm not officially on this project, but you always can find me. I think most folks have my email, or I'm on Facebook somewhere like that. Always never hesitate to reach out to me. I'll give you my cell number. I'll put it in the chat as we're leaving. And because we're in this together, be it COVID, be it racism, be it HIV and the stigma and the brokenness, or be it, Alicia, I'll tell you, my uncle didn't come home. They didn't bring him back. Whatever it be, what we can be is we can be in it together. We are a representation of Black and brown people and white people in the Well Project and the work we do. So if you have nowhere else to be that and be who you are and be genuine, keep showing up for the work that the Well Project is doing. Keep posting, post to the site, because that's what we do. We create and we illuminate positive energy, positive life, and we want everybody to be well. We want you to be well. To do what you have to do most effectively, you have to be well. No pun intended. It's just my second favorite word next to intentionally, is I need you to breathe. To take a deep breath is more precious than you can imagine. We saw that last week. But to get through this, we can share that moment in breathing together. And know that they thought HIV would get us. This is something else that we will conquer. We're going to conquer COVID. We're going to conquer this. I always thought that maybe HIV wouldn't be cured in my lifetime. I don't know. I don't know if racism will be cured. But what are the tools we're going to create for us that we keep breathing through this process? Because unfortunately, another Black man will die before this is over. Another Black daughter will die before this is over. But we have to intentionally, my very favorite word in vocabulary, we have to intentionally create a personal plan, what we can do that we show up in the best who we are and to put our energy and our focus where it needs to be. Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you. Ladies, thank you for allowing me to share space with you. I love you guys. Let's do a big group hug. Everybody, come on. It's Kristen. Go ahead, Kristen. It's yours.
Yeah, well, it's hard to say anything after that. I just really want to say thank you to all of you for sharing, and thank you for all of you who are here and just listening, and thank you to Gina and Linda for facilitating this. And all I can say is that, yes, I'm just completely always so grateful for this amazing community that we've built, and, extends far, far beyond the people that are on this call. And because we have such an amazing, diverse group, it's just really important that, we continue to hear from you about anything that we can do. If there's something that the community is lacking and that needs to be done, we want to hear, and we will do our best to see how we can fulfill or address the need. So that is one of the key parts, I think, of the Well Project is listening and then trying to fill whatever gaps we can. So just, we're here, and thank you.
And Kristen, Jenna, thank you guys for being our allies and coming up with saying we needed to come together like this. So thank you for your continued leadership as our allies in this space. Ladies, let's go in peace and be strong.
I love you. Thank
put on your mask.
Hopefully
and take care of yourselves.
Love you all.
Bye-bye, ladies.
I love y'all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Gina.
Remember, 7 p.m. Central, Gina.
Yes.
Except when you're in Amsterdam. All right.
Yes.
All right. Bye, Miss Sonia.
Bye.
You were here until I saw you in the
the Zoom kept whatever updates they made, it wouldn't let me come in under my picture or my name. It just let me listen.
Oh, yeah, we need to fix stuff. But yeah, just if that ever happens, just let me know and we'll make sure.
That's
Olivia.
fine, so.
Joe is here. It's lovely to see.
Olivia, you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Hi. If you want, you could call me like today. Because
Okay.
I had to do a trauma-informed care webinar, but we decided that we're too traumatized to give any trauma-informed care to anyone.
Oh my God, I hear you. Let's
Wow.
check in about this is on another topic, y'all. Let me check in with you over text. I may not be able to today. Maybe my time has been so weird with the
Okay, that's fine.
But let's check in about it on text. If
Okay.
that's
All right.
Cool.
Okay,
But thank
I
you
love
so
you
much.
all.
Love you
All
so much.
right, love you as
Joe
well.
had
Thank
something
you.
Love you
to.
guys. Thank you so much.
Joe had something.
Joe, do you want? Oh wait, no. She
Joe.
said no. My internet is playing spoil sport.
Oh. Okay. All right. Well, thank you again for being here, and big love, and hopefully we'll talk to you all soon or see your faces.
Sorry, you can't share, Joe. Yeah, but it's so good to see y'all. Alicia, thank you so much for sharing as well.
Yes.
Bose, thank you so much.
Lasagna, you're doing okay? Oh, as best as you can.
Yeah, I've had I've broken down a few times from the moment that I saw the video of George Floyd to the conversations that I've had to go to the next level with my son, to seeing the innocence in his eyes when speaking to him, and understanding that everybody's not going to see that child. They just see a young man. They don't even see a young man because he's 16 and he has a lot of facial hair. So they don't see a kid. They don't see a kid. So I've had random, tears and frustration, and I'm seeing a lot of divisiveness in the community. And not just in the HIV community, but just as a whole. And I see that, the leadership oftentimes that we're looking for or just waiting for is just us. We are that leadership. We want it to be, the president. We want it to be the top leaders of organizations. We want it to be so many different people without the expectation of it being us. And, I'm really heavy on the intergenerational disconnect. So I can't do as much as I want to, like I have been in the past. But I know that I can start conversations that make sense. I know that I have a certain responsibility and a level of, I don't consider myself to have an extreme level of influence because I'm so community, grassroots, connect, like that's my focus. And I do my work nationally and statewide. But when it comes to like really intimate conversations, I try my best to focus on building community relationships. But I do realize that the tools that racism has shown me, like working in this community, is that the access to resources and how to do something is a language of its own that usually encompasses some level of white supremacy that we don't learn in our culture. So I'm trying to learn how to have those conversations because the only white people in my life are the ones that I work with in HIV. And I know that may sound weird, but I grew up in Decatur, Georgia, and not the city of Decatur, Georgia. I grew up, where your local mall is the urban mall that everybody comes to when they come to Atlanta. I grew up where the best job you could find was either getting paid under the table or minimum wage, because a lot of people would steal from the store. So you can't understand the checks and balances of the local economy in which you live in. And then it's so point the finger, blame this person on this side, that person on this side. And so and then seeing the hurt amongst everyone. So it's been challenging, to say the least. It has been. And that generational piece real quick is that the generation that is responding to this in the way that has such passion, I think, is the millennials, right? And when I say the millennials, I'm talking about myself. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes when we say the millennials, we're talking about that a lot of people are assuming that it's young people between the ages of like 18 to 25, and they're the last subset of millennials. Like, that's not them. It's the 30 is the new 20 people. So mm-hmm. with that being said, like, I just think that there's this huge intergenerational disconnect where my generation does not have the tools, the resources, the understanding, the education, the knowledge, where we value certain things that will uphold what Generation Z needs. So now it's time to teach Generation Z what they need to avoid or to help keep this from happening in the way that it is. How about that? You know, because I think it's going to take, it can take generations to come before all of this changes, of course, because of how it's been rooted, you know, the base root of how this world is and the slave trade and everything when you go deeply into it. But I can't help but to understand that 20 years from now, my children are the ones that are responsible for taking care of me. I'll be in my 50s at that time. And I don't think each generation is looking at it like that. I'm not even going to say, I don't think. There are so many times where I've had to say to people to paint a perspective that you know, when I say you, I'm not talking about you all, but I've said to people, you think that I understand Magic Johnson's announcement when I was 4 years old when he made that announcement. Who is Magic Johnson to my generation? I use that parallel often because I can't relate to Magic Johnson. So therefore you're removed from understanding what generation you're dealing with, like who you're speaking to and how you understand that. So when I'm, you know, I miss going into the schools heavily, but I did not feel fulfilled just sharing my story when I went to the schools to speak to hundreds of thousands of young people under the ages from age 8 to 18, 19 years old, from elementary, middle, and high school. Right. And those conversations, I just didn't feel like it was enough because I still had to have a conversation with their moms and their grandparents after. And it just, where do I go further than where I'm at with you all right now? You know, and so I haven't spoken on it much. This is the most I've spoken on it outside of a couple of my peers, but a lot of my peers are they're totally not okay. They're beyond traumatized, and I'm doing the best that I can to encourage them because all of the protests and things that have been happening here in Atlanta, I live 2 blocks from it. Yeah. 2. I was stuck in traffic and I was only 2 street lights from the grocery store because I'm right in the middle of where it all is happening. And as the convoys are going by and we're and the helicopters are above us, we're just kind of in our own little whoop-de-doo world in our home safely, but it's still these things that are happening. And just the community overall is not as tight as it needs to be. Like people destroy businesses that they didn't even know were small community businesses that need to thrive in order for us to have the community that we have. Not, you know, they're looking at the looting is okay, is not okay. I get it, but did you know how to protect this particular one? Like, did you even have a relationship with this business at all? So things like that. But I think it's going to create that camaraderie. It's going to make it say, you know what, now we need to know each other. And I think it's going to make us have a tighter bond than we did before. So, but other than that, what happened to George Floyd, it's not new. And my brother-in-law is a police officer. So it's not none of this is new.
No.
It's unfortunately
I mean,
norm.
it's right, and it's not new, and I feel like but it's gotten to such a place that it's finally forcing people to look at it and not, you can't, I mean, anyone that can look away, obviously there are people that are trying to twist on the other side of, what the conversation is, but I think it's really forcing a lot of people that have otherwise looked away are starting to really take a second. And so I'm hoping that it's going to force, the conversation and the change, because it's not new, but we've been so just inundated with these hashtags and stories and people's death. It's like, but this is what it took. It's awful. So anyways,
I know we're over and I came on late, but I do have a question for you, Krista. After watching 13th, how was that for you overall? Like, just in summary.
I mean, for me, unfortunately, I mean, there was nothing like shocking because I'm very aware, of the history, but at the same time, there were just some really, poignant moments. And I feel like certain things I haven't been, like history, my history has, like, interest in history has, like, quadrupled or infinitesimally changed compared to like when I was in high school. I mean, it wasn't that I wasn't interested, but my other interests were like much stronger. So I didn't value the importance of history as much as I do now. So I just think that first of all, I like don't to like watch a lot of TV or movies or anything, and I think when I do, I end up like, especially with the family, I kind of will towards something lighter when at the end of a day or something. But I think I need to really intentionally, for the things I haven't seen, I want to make sure that I am catching up on a long list of things that I've wanted to see and I flagged, and I just didn't do.
So I just want to tell you, thank you for making time to watch that. That's something that my son and his friends, we required them to watch it so they could understand where they sit. But part of the reason why I asked the question that I did on Facebook yesterday was because I realized that, like, my mom is 50. How old is she? 52 or 53? I think she's 52. My mom's 52, right? And when I look at like what she learned versus what I learned in school, where she went to school at versus where I went to school, she went to school in Virginia. So, everything was, for her, she didn't have a culture shock per se, like I did, like seeing black and whites, date together down here. It would still be kind of shocking, like, oh wow, wait, that happens. But when I would go to Virginia, it like was very shocking because near the Navy base, that's mainly what you see is a mixed couple. So growing up with just predominantly black people in my life, I had to go to a certain area in order to be around white people or just other cultures in general. And so eventually I did go to school around other cultures, or other races in general. But it's just still like the history that you're now learning is also the history that a lot of my culture is still now learning as well, because the generation before us didn't make it a strong value to say, you need to know this history. So that's what I'm looking at right now and trying to figure out how could I come up with a tool that this is what we do as orators in the Black community. Like, here's our tool for when your kid gets to this age, this is what we teach them. At this age, this is what we teach them, and so forth. And why is it a value? Because not everyone's going to value history.
Well, I mean, I think that, it's funny because when you have said, and been wanting to have a call with you forever, but I mean, when you said you didn't know like what to maybe do for the stay well at home, my first thing was something around like just even like everything that I've learned from you about parenting and, you know, kind of educating your children and or something. Like, I mean, I just feel like you have such a strong and like really, I mean, you know, it's just obvious from kind of listening to you and seeing some of the conversations you've had with your, you know, around your kids. It just feels like there could be something that you, because I just think that's such a big strength. And even what you've just been saying about kind of how to pass down this knowledge to the youth, I think it's something we can be thinking about. And I don't know if it's with this series, but in general, like, I mean, if there's a way that we can help kind of find support to create some sort of like mentorship with youth, you know, from your generation to versus like, you know, the older generation to your generation. I think, you know, it's more your generation to the younger generation, could be something that would be really important. So I'm open for thinking.
So I just want to say thank you guys again so much. Just for being who you all are. It means so much. I don't know any other, I'm not aware of any other organizations as unique as this one. So I try my best to do what I can in the best way that I'm able to, in the capacity that I have to support what the Well Project offers. And I often think about, you know, if you and Jenna aren't available, how does the Well Project continue going? Like, that's how far I think about what the Well Project does and where it stands and how its legacy will continue. So thank you. And I will definitely be in touch with you to help me assess my skill set so that I can do more, because I don't know where I stand and how what type of reflection I'm giving. Like, I don't always see and understand what that looks like. So,
well, every time you contribute, I mean, we just value everything that you've always contributed. And I just, you know, what you just said is also big in my head, you know, I mean, and actually I'm supposed to be speaking to the board of directors, you know, when COVID came up, I mean, one of the vignette Charles kind of said about like, we need to have contingency plans, you know, what if something, I get sick, or, you know, and Jenna, or, you know, Olivia, I don't know, like, I mean, and we applied for some emergency funding grants. We're waiting to hear back on those. And I'm hoping that if we get those, that it will allow for us to have like some real kind of out of the box, because it's kind of supposed to go towards sustainability and, you know, like general operations versus just a program. And to me, that looks like what you're talking about. I mean, how do we start moving people from the CAB to, you know, inside the team and, you know, more inside the team as employees, or, you know, whatever we can do. I just, so far it's just been this steady build and we haven't had the means to do that, but it's something that because I would like to step aside, you know, I mean, I still want to be doing, but I would like to hand over the torch, you know, in a responsible way instead of, you know, something like an emergency type scenario. So if you're interested. Cece, do you want to say anything? Or, it's good to see you. I didn't know you were on there. I was like too like busy looking at the chat.
Oh, hey y'all. I don't know exactly what we were talking about because there's a lot going on. I mean, we can start anywhere.
Yeah.
I think I was pretty open and transparent yesterday in my Instagram stories about like my experience of what's going on now. Because, you know, I live in Philly, and Philly, Jenna, was off the chain. Like, and there now is so much like racial tension that it just can't be addressed. I mean, it cannot not be addressed. And I think even on individual levels, because this morning They ruined all the supermarkets in my neighborhood, like everything. They have messed everything up. So I just had to drive into a neighborhood that normally I would feel uncomfortable going to because Black people don't shop out there. Like, it's a white neighborhood. But today, like, I'm forced to go out there. And I was just like so anxious, worrying about how the people were going to, like, how they were going to accept me and my guy, because, you know, we look like, you know, the people who ruined their own neighborhoods, and now y'all got to come out here. And, you know, the people are standing protecting their stores, which I get it. A lot of us wasn't, like, the cause got so lost in all of the madness. But I get it. I just don't understand why it was executed in the way that it was executed. Like, and so then you have that person in between that understands we need change, but not to harm ourselves, because that's essentially what happened. Those looters are going to be hungry next week. And then just hearing gunshots and explosions. For the last 3 nights, I've heard explosions. Someone brought an ATM onto my block, and they were at 2:00 in the morning trying to get into the ATM with a saw, and just like sneaker boxes everywhere. And I was delivering food one day, so I'm like watching this stuff happen and watching the cops jump out. It's crazy on somebody's mental health, because this is added on top of whatever we're going through already. And then here comes this thing. And Zion, he said he didn't want to go to the store with me because they're killing Black people outside. That's my 9-year-old son. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know, but we all know, like, at some point we're not gonna be able to hide. Like, this is a stolen land with stolen people, and at some point there's going to be unrest until this is right. Like, it's not right, and we just keep building, and people get upset about the businesses and stuff getting messed up. True, that's very wrong, but y'all was wrong for starting to build on top of something whose foundation was foul. So at some point, yeah, and here goes my 79-year-old pop-up. He said 400 years. But talking about this, and it's so traumatic. And them young kids is just so angry, and I don't even think they really understand why they're angry. But if we just, like, put the logic together, you know, stolen people, stolen land, like, I get it. But it was so wrong. And I don't even think the people that ruined all the neighborhoods are from the neighborhoods. I've been watching stuff on it. So to see that we have, like, instigators out there who will, because all you gotta do is open the door a little bit and they in there. It was wow. I don't know. I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the part we keep hearing too about, like, these out-of-state cars, like, circling the blocks that are getting looted, and I mean, we know, it's just hard to wrap our head around. But I think what you said too is, like, to Masania's point too, it's like, how do we kind of teach the young people as to, you know, the history, and I mean, and old people. I'm in that category now. I was on a advisory board yesterday about PrEP and women, and, you know, at the very end, like, we all got to make a final comment, and I was like, I mean, no offense to my other panelists, you know, from, like, PWN and a few to other people, but I was like, we need some young people at this conversation, because, I mean, what, you know, prevention and PrEP, and, like, we've got some history and experience about, like, what certain things might need in order to get it to women, but, like, we need younger voices. And Masania, I was thinking of you, so if they come back to me, I may follow up with them. But so it's really.
But screw HIV the last couple of days. Like, I had so many other things going on that I couldn't, like, did I take my medicine today? Oh, crap, I ain't take it. Or, you know, just watching the pharmacies get burnt down and to get looted. And immediately I'm like, dang, I need them. My pop-up need them. Mommy need them. Like, I don't know. It's crazy.
It is. I mean, that's like, I've been kind of moving in this fog, and just like I said in my blog, it's just like my head's been buzzing and this knot in my stomach, and just feeling like kind of not sure like what to do, but wanting to do it. And it's like, and if I'm feeling that way, you know, I can't. Obviously.
I live in the neighborhoods where they are bringing the stuff back that has been looted. And it is one of the most awkward feelings ever. Like, you know, seeing people walk around with baby Timberlands and bragging how much, you know, they spent on them, or people selling hair out the house and people supporting it. I just don't get it. That mindset is not mine. And I just don't get it. But then by many people, I'll be clumped into the same category, you know, with them just because my skin is brown. And it's not right. It's not right. All right, I'm going back.
Oh.
Hi, Krista.
Hi, Alexandrina.
My screen just went blank, and I tried to come in by the Zoom, and it just wouldn't let me. I don't know. By some stroke of luck, I just got on. I I heard when our young friend was speaking about the intergenerational challenges, and I can relate to that. I can relate to that because I am a grandmother, and now speaking on other webinars in our Caribbean region, we have experienced racial turmoil, but it wasn't like the color of his skin. It was more of a race, like the Indo versus the Negro, as it were. And I could remember as a child growing up, there was this awful civil war in South America, in Guyana, where I was born. Lots of people lost their lives, they lost their property. Fortunately for me, and I say fortunately guardedly, we were living further upriver, so the actual violence did not reach to us, but we felt it because we had relatives living in places that were burnt to the ground. They lost their housing, they lost their cattle, and so on. But coming back to the generation situation, this year United Nations is looking at the intergenerational equality. And I think that a number of things are happening now, which is kind of like giving an open window for us to understand that we need to share our experiences. Sometimes we want to shield our children, our grandchildren from some of the harsh realities that we as older persons would have experienced. But I think this is a good time now for us to sit down and explain to them, you know, in ways that would help them to understand that what is happening now didn't just happen overnight. That is from way back when. I hear my young friend saying that interracial relationships were not known back in her mother day. I could remember there was a time when we had interracial relationships, but then because of the civil disturbance, that broke off for a while, but it is now coming back on stream. So there is room for us to talk and to, as somebody said, to ask those hard questions and put it to our, even some of our peers who may not have experienced some of the harsher realities that some of us may have experienced. The challenge for us is for us to use our experiences to educate others. We may not be able to, for whatever reason or reasons, stand on a podium or go to a public space, but let us start with those that are near us, our children and our grandchildren. And in groups like these, how can we share some of the hurts that we have experienced that we never spoke about? And so healing for many of us has taken a number of years, but while this is a time of pain and hurting, it also gives us an opportunity for a time of healing as well. And so we have to start the healing with ourselves and then share it to others. First, by asking those hard questions to ourselves. How may we, in some small way or not, might have contributed way back when to what is happening now? How do we see ourselves in the whole conundrum? I mean, living 2 streets or 2 blocks from where it's happening is really, really, really scary. And so I want to reach out to those of you who are in the heat of what is happening, to ask you to try as much as possible to maintain your focus and to do everything that you can within your power to stay safe. Because sometimes when persons lose their equilibrium, their mental, their emotional equilibrium, they hit out at everybody, regardless of whether you're the same color or you're from the same neighborhood or anything like that. The challenge we're also faced with now also is because of the large groupings that are getting together physically. There is an increased likelihood that we will see spiking of COVID-19. And that scares me. That scares me a whole lot, because we could lose many more lives there as well. So please let that be part of our narrative, that as much as we want to get together to show our solidarity, remember that we are exposing ourselves to the harsher reality of this new coronavirus, COVID-19. And so I just want to close by saying thank you all for allowing me in this space to listen, to learn, to talk, and to share. So for those of us who are spiritually minded, we let us continue to look to whichever higher being that we hold dear to our heart, regardless of whether we're Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Baha'is, or whatever it is. Let us strengthen our spiritual self so that we can help others. So thank you all very much, and stay safe, everybody.
Thank you. I think that's a perfect way to, end this conversation. And thank you. I'm so sorry that you weren't able to come on earlier and join, but I really appreciate you speaking up and all of your thoughts and your wisdom and your trying to keep everyone safe and well. I really do think that this concept of sharing knowledge and learning from each other is, really key, and we'll keep trying to figure out how to best do that. I mean, I think the blog, and I don't know if Alexandrina, if you've ever want to be part of A Girl Like Me and blog, because it's really uplifted so many amazing voices, many of whom you see right here, and just kind of get these words of wisdom and experiences and connecting people to a much broader number. So we'd welcome.
I'll be very pleased to participate in any other activity that I can be a part of. And as I'm saying, this is a sharing as well as a learning experience for me and for all of us. So wherever there's a room, I'll be happy to be part of that process.
Thank you. All right, does anyone else have anything you want to say before we go? This was really nice to with you all beyond the initial time. So I really appreciate everyone sharing and coming on. And I love you. And yes, I will continue to talk. And, you know, I'm always here, you know, and we can just make follow-up individual calls to, you know, talk about different ideas and how we can, because I think as you all have provided us with your thoughts, I mean, those thoughts have often gone into reality. And so the more we hear from you and talk to you, the more we can try and make happen. All right. Masanya, thank you again for, yeah, even bringing that up on Facebook last night. It's good to make me, you know, think about all this. And one thing that, you know, and I probably shouldn't close with this because we just had such a nice kind of end to that. But one thing that did, you know, like really hit me over and over, and I think I kind of rewinded it and watched it a couple times, but which also has to do with the Amy Cooper's, you know, this kind of even, you know, we're all looking at Trump and, you know, his followers and the kind of Republicans as being really a huge cause of this, but the, you know, the part that was going on in like the 90s and the super predator and all this stuff and Hillary Clinton saying it over and over and, you know, and I mean, it started before, but it's just, you know, how much even kind of well-meaning Democrats and, you know, so-called liberals have contributed so much, and that like we
Buddy?
This is the best way to end.
Let's keep the room light.
Hi, how are you?
I didn't even finish my last night's note. Say hi, everyone. Thank you so much.
She's so big now. Wow.
You silly. Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Big
I
girl.
know, she's so big. Where's my... my... There it is. There's my baby.
Look at Simba. Hi, Simba.
Oh, I get to kiss it.
Wow.
You see Ori?
Wow.
All right.
Hi, Simba. Oh, no.
Wow. All right.
Megan was 10 on the 1st. Megan is 10.
Oh, Megan?
Megan.
Happy birthday.
Oh, it's Megan's birthday. Megan. Happy birthday.
Wow.
Is she there?
No. She's outside.
Okay. All right. Well, tell her happy birthday from all of us. And thank you again, everyone. It was so nice to speak to you.
Bye.
See you all. And love you. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much.
Love you all so much. It was so good to be here with you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Bye. Little kiss. Mwah. Thank you. I got it. All right. All right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.